Yes.
Good. So in those laws is written as follows. So after the laws, there are some things about notebooks. Now, there's a lot of debate as to whether the stars teach us anything and whether the day you're born has a difference. So Rabbi Shua ben Levi had some general principles about when people are born and so on. So Haiman, the B'chad de Shabbata, Yev Agar V'lo Chada Bey. So a person who was born on Sunday, it's he's born on Sunday. He says as follows. He will be complete in one way. In other words, he'll be very good at one thing, but not necessarily at other things. The Lochad Bey. If you say not even one thing for the good, didn't Rav Ashi say, I know I was born on Sunday. Rav Ashi was a good guy. But it means to say, if you're born on Sunday, which is the first day of the week, you won't have even one thing bad about you. Rav Ashi said, I and Dimi Bar Kokosta, me and Dimi Bar Kokosta, were both born on Sunday. I'm the king, which means to say I'm the head of the yeshiva, and he was the head of a gang of thieves. He was the mafioso. But it means to say, if you're born on Sunday, you'll either be all good or all bad. What's the reason? Because it's the day that day and night were created, light and dark. So if you're born on Sunday, you'll either be all from the good side or all from the dark side.
Okay, Rabbi, I have a question. It says
Probably
here.
You have a question about this Gemara, yeah.
Okay, the key word, 2 words here I see is Ktif Apinkase. So he wrote something in a private little book. He read something. How does something like this become a halacha?
It's not a halacha. It's not halacha.
What?
Yosele. It's not halacha. It's Aggadot. It's Aggadot.
But look what we learn from here. We making if somebody is born on Sunday, I mean, this is completely out of any border.
I don't know. We'll have to do a survey. Let's do a survey of all the people born on Sunday. So the question of course is, what does all this mean? So let's go through the days of the week, yeah? And then we can discuss what it means, because there's a lot of discussion about this in the commentaries, okay?
Oh, I hope so, yeah. I hope so.
So, well, I'll explain that. So, just a note. So, the Marsha says that this means to say that people are born with various inclinations. People are born with various qualities they don't control. The Marsha says that basically what this means is, so for example, some people are born with leadership abilities. So some become the heads of the yeshiva and some become mafioso. In other words, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is not necessarily telling us that all people born on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday have certain characteristics. He's trying to make a point, because often the Aggadah speaks allegorically. And he's trying to make a point. And the point he's trying to make is what? That everyone is born with a set of characteristics they do not control. What you do with those characteristics and those abilities, you do. And that's really what this means. As far as the differences today in the week, it's a good question. Haiman, the trade, the Shabbata, Yigavar Ragzon, someone born on Monday will be short-tempered. Why? Because the heavenly and earth, the higher and lower waters were divided on the day. Haiman de Batalsa B'Shabbat. If you're born on Tuesday, Yegavar Atir V'Zanoye. He will be rich and immoral, promiscuous. This doesn't mean that he's going to sin. It means that some people chase money, and some people chase the opposite gender, and some people are born with this characteristic and have to control themselves. My timer, because the grass which grows in great profusion was created on the third day. Someone born on Wednesday, Yigaver Chakim Benohir. will be wise and illuminating. He will be wise and he will be a good teacher. My timer, because the heavenly bodies were placed on that day, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Someone born on Thursday, be a person who performs act of kindness. Why? What's the reason? Because the fish and the fowl were created. And since they don't, the fish and the fowl, most of them don't have any direct utility. They are sustained by God's kindness. In other words, the domesticated animals and fowls, we sustain them. But the wild animals and fowls and the fish and birds are mostly wild because they didn't have farmed salmon yet, are sustained by God's kindness. So God set up, they don't need people to feed them because God set up a complex ecosystem in which they can all survive.
So you're right. So you said it yourself. It sounds like it. We are born in this with a certain gene system, with a DNA system, but it has nothing to do with Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday.
Right. So again, I think some of the commentaries feel that this is more a way of making that statement, that we're born with a set of genetic abilities, and those are given out in different ways to different people. What you do with it is your choice.
That's true.
Haiman de Shabbat okay, someone born on Erev Shabbos, Yehi Gavar Chazran, will be a seeker. Why? What's the reason? Yehi Chazran b'mitzvahs, he'll always seek mitzvahs. Why? Because on Friday night, you run around preparing for Shabbat. Haiman de Shabbat Yehi, someone born on Shabbat, b'Shabbat Yemus, he'll die on Shabbos. Why? Because they desecrated Shabbos on his behalf, because you have to desecrate Shabbos in order to help a woman giving birth. Amar Rav Bashila said, he will be called Kadisha Rabba Yiskirei. He will be called a holy man. Will be a holy person. He'll have the potential for holiness. Now, in a moment, Rabbi Chanina goes and argues. So the question is, how do you argue with a question of fact? If it's the hour of the day you're born that defines you, then it's the hour. If it's the day, it's the day. Go do a survey, go take a poll, go do a study and come back. But the point is that we talk about the characteristics of the days of the week and the characteristics of the hours of the day as a means of saying that the set of cards you're born with, the toolbox that you're born with, the abilities that you are born with, are all not in your control. You don't control those things. You control what you do with them. So now we're going to learn about the hours of the day.
But I actually like what you just said about Shabbat. That's very cute and it's very nice because they use it as if he prepares for Shabbos, he'll die on Shabbos, which is really like you won the lottery.
Amalu Rabbi Chanina. So Rabbi Chanina said, Puku Amrele Levar Livahe. Go tell Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi he's wrong. Lo Mazel Yom Gore. It's not the hour of the day that causes the person's nature, but rather it's the hour of the it's the heavenly body that controls the hour. So now this goes to pure astrology. Okay. Yeah. And what you have, and again, there's a big debate as to whether one can pay attention to astrology or not. But anyway, so this is the order. So I have to explain abyssal about astrology to you guys. Okay? So here's the deal. If I hear some echo, so you might want to lower your thing or on mute or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, because I was trying to understand all this because in the very beginning it says that the one who was born on that day and then what was created on that day. So it seems that there is a relation between the creation itself and
right, but again,
our birthday. But the point is even in astrology, they use mathematics and many things, but each day we have choices to make. So you cannot determine how a person will be, how a person will
Right,
react, because
right.
there are
You
so
can
many
be,
other factors
the
that
idea is, but God
influence.
determines what set of tools you have. You know, things like temper and intelligence and patience and charisma and all those things are not necessarily learned. What you do with them.
Uh-huh.
So Rabbi Hanina says it goes by the constellation of the hour. And in other words, this is the order of hours. In other words, according to the ancient astrology, because they couldn't see Pluto and they couldn't see Neptune and they couldn't see Uranus, so therefore they have 7 heavenly bodies: the sun, the moon, and in order, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. Those are the only planets they could see. So if you're born under the influence of the sun, you'll be a radiant person. In other words, the sun gives off light. He will eat from his own resources, drink from his own resources, and his secrets will be exposed. If he steals, he will not succeed, because he'll be like the sun that shines in a revealed star. The person is a very straightforward person. You know, he does well in business. He shares what he does. There's no secrets. He's not a good liar. You know, he's the big, open, frank, successful person. One born under the influence of Venus will be both rich and promiscuous, because fire was born during the hour of Venus. So you'll be fire of the evil inclination, so you'll chase money. And if you're not careful, you'll chase immorality.
But Rabbi, we all are influenced by the sun.
Yeah.
The
This
sun
again,
influences everybody.
of course. But if you,
Good point.
the way it works is, so I just have to explain abyssal astrology. Again, I don't think this is meant to be taken literally, okay? But from the moment of creation, there is a heavenly body that is considered to be influencing that hour. So the world was created, basically the evening of the first day. So at 6 p.m. on Saturday night, okay, let's say. So from 6 to 7 is the hour of the sun, and so on. Since there's 7 things, this repeats itself in a week. There's how many hours? 24 times 7.
A lot of hours.
How many? 24 times 7 is how many? It's 28 and 140. So 168 hours in the week. Yeah?
That's about right.
Right. So what, and how many times does, right. So that means, so there's 24 cycles during the course of the week. Okay. It's 24 times 7. So every hour, starting from Sunday and ending Saturday night and ending Saturday afternoon, one star is in influence. That's why some people don't make Kiddush between 6 and 7 on Friday night, because that is that particular heavenly body that is under the influence is Mars, which is a sign of bloodshed, and Shabbos is about peace. It's brought down in the Magen Avraham, by the way, in the laws of Kiddush. So one is born under the influence of Venus will be, okay. One is born the influence of Mercury will be enlightened and expert man, because Mercury is the sun's scribe. It's closest to the sun. Next, after the sun, Venus, and Mercury is the moon. One is born in the moon, man who suffers pain, who builds and destroys and builds. It'd be a man who doesn't eat from his own resources and drinks not from his own secrets are hidden. And if he steals, he'll succeed, because the moon constantly changes forms. It receives its light from its sun. Sometimes it's revealed, sometimes it's hidden. So if you're going to work for the Mossad or the CIA, it's good to be born under the influence of the moon. If you're born under the influence of Saturn, things will happen. And in other words, he'll make all kinds of plans and they won't happen. Others say all kinds of people make plans about him and they won't happen. Why? Because the Hebrew word for Saturn is Shabtai, it's Shabbat, to rest, which means to say that everything about him is laid to rest, either his plans or other plans for him. One born of Jupiter, whose Hebrew name is Tzedek, will be a just person. And just means in the performance of mitzvot. One who was born under the influence of Mars will be one who spills blood. Rav Ashi said it'll either be a bloodletter, in other words, a surgeon, or a thief, or a slaughter of animals, or a circumciser. So what this means to say is that people with an inclination to violence can either be armed robbers, they can be murderers, or they can slaughter animals, which is a kosher slaughter is a very worthy and holy occupation. And a mohel is also a worthy and holy obligation. Or you can be a surgeon. So either you'll be a murderer or a surgeon. Rabbah says, wait a second. I was born under the influence of Mars, and I don't perform any of those activities. So Abaya said, yeah, but you, my teacher, Abaya was a student, he punishes and kills as above. But Rabbah is saying, I don't believe in any of this, and I don't accept that any of these things. Rabbi Chanina says, Mazel Machim, the astrological sign you bore under makes you wise, makes you rich, and Yesh Mazel Yisrael, and it affects Jews. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, a Mazel Yisrael. There is no Mazel. There is no astrological influence on Israel. We're not affected by it, and I think Rabbah and Rabbi Yochanan both disagree that there's any fortune that defines who you are. In other words, God might give you a set of cards to play, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it comes from a certain time, certain day, certain hour.
Okay, so you mentioned here there was one rabbi that says, I don't.
Joe, one more. I want to read from you because Maimonides quotes this. Rabbi Yochanan, how do we know Mazel Yisrael? That the Jews are not subject to the influence of astrology. It says, Kayamar Hashem. So says Hashem in Yirmiyahu. Ma'ota tashmayim al techtu. Don't learn from the ways of the Goyim, and don't be afraid of the signs of heaven, because only the nations have to be afraid of them. They'll be afraid and not Israel. So some commentaries say it means to say it's all. This is Maimonides' position, that it's all baloney. And we don't believe it. It doesn't affect the Goyim either. They're afraid of it because they're fools. That is Maimonides' position.
Exactly. But not only that, somebody should have said this is idol worshiping.
Well, only the Rambam. The Rambam holds it's not straight out idol worship that is a capital offense, but that is from the customs of the idol worshippers. And Rav also says, Mazel Yisrael, there are no constellations to Israel, but many of the other sages believe that the signs of heaven have some influence. And Natalie knows something about this. And my daughter wrote a paper on this for Toro College, where she's attending. And then I sent the final version to Natalie. And anyone who wants to read the paper, just email me and I'll send you a copy. Okay.
So what did your daughter say? What was the bottom line of what your daughter said?
Well, she quotes some authorities who believe there may be some power to astrology based on these pages of Talmud. And she quotes other authorities like Maimonides who say it's all baloney. It's a debate. It was a big debate in the middle. During the Middle Ages, this was a big debate.
Yeah, of course, and it still is. And you have these whisperers and people that give out kvittels, and
No. Yossel, you don't mean a kvittel. You mean a kameya.
A kameya, exactly.
Okay, who knows what a kameya is?
Yeah, it's very popular.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. Is it a piece of paper with some? Maybe it has Hashem's name on it or something,
or psukim, or various letters. Yeah, so a kameya is mentioned in the Talmud. A kameya is mentioned in the Talmud, and it basically is. It can be a prayer. It can be a series of divine names, and it's supposed to have some salutary effect. So a kameya is not astrology. A kameya is an old Jewish tradition, which some believe in and some don't. the big debate between Rabbi Yaakov Emden and Yonas and Eibeshitz in the 18th century was over the issue of certain kameyas he wrote that Rabbi Yaakov Emden thought showed tendencies to follow Shabtai Tzvi. Rabbi Yonas and Eibeshitz was one of the biggest scholars of his time and certainly wasn't a follower of Shabtai Tzvi, but that's the story.
I think,
by the way, a kameya is not, now Maimonides says that anyone who writes a verse on a piece of, writes a verse and uses it for protection is taking the Torah, which is meant to give us wisdom, and using it for worldly and empty things. The Rambam was very against kameya, but many Mekubalim are in favor of them. So
but I think a kameya in modern Hebrew, isn't that like a brooch, a piece of jewelry?
Yeah. Yes, correct. Because people used to wear the kameya.
Wear it, yeah.
And they used to wear it in a sealed container because, you go into the bathroom or something, it has to be in a sealed container. So often those containers were made of gold or silver. So now we call the container a kameya and forgot about what used to go into the container.
Exactly.
I have a couple of questions about the Rambam.
Sure.
How does he hold about making kiddush? Would he make kiddush any time of the night?
Yes, Rambam would not be concerned with it. But the custom among Hasidim and Sfardim is to concern themselves with this particular custom.
And what about a mezuzah? I'm sure that's different than a kameya.
Mezuzah is a halacha. But the Rambam says the mezuzah exists to remind you of all the mitzvot, that your house should be a place of holiness. And in doing so, that protects you. That what the Rambam would say, it's the mitzvah that protects you, not any particular. So, for example, a lot of people, especially Sfardim, they keep a mezuzah in their car. The Rambam would say there's no halachic obligation, even though he was a Sfardi, to have a mezuzah, so there's no point of keeping it in the car with you.
But this is all based on what we just reading in Shmot now, right?
What, the mezuzah?
The mezuzah is based on when we put blood on.
Yes, the mezuzah goes in the same place that the blood went.
Exactly. So that's an old custom that goes back to the Makot in Yetziat Mitzrayim.
Yeah, well, the mezuzah is in Devarim. When the Jews entered Israel, and remember, tent, you don't have to put a mezuzah on. And the Jews never do if they were going to be 19 years in one place or one night in one place. But when they entered Eretz Yisrael, when they entered Israel, we're going to have real houses. That's why the commandment for the mezuzah only shows up in Devarim. Because Devarim was said right before they entered Israel. They didn't need a mezuzah until they entered Israel because they were living in temporary dwellings, which are not liable to a mezuzah. When we get to Menachot, we'll learn a lot more about that. And the very famous sage Onkelos, who translated the Torah into Aramaic, was a nephew of King Hadrian, and he converted to Judaism because of the mezuzah. And we will study that story at some point. At any rate, have a very good day, everyone. And as you see, the Talmud does not shy away from controversial topics. And we'll see you for lunch and learn if you want to join us, 12:30 to 12:45. We can sanctify our isolation by studying regularly on Zoom.